Now summer is here, people are heading back to work, and the underground is starting to get crowded again. A little problem that we haven't had to deal with for a while is rearing its ugly little head. That problem is heat. Now any small crowded area is bound to get hot, but the central line really takes the biscuit, and then burns it. The central line is the hottest line on the tube. How hot is it? Well, in 2017 it exceeded 35.5 degrees centigrade. Now to put that into perspiration, to put that into perspective, the maximum temperature allowed for the transportation of livestock under EU regulations is 30 degrees. Actually, the central line regularly exceeds 30. The second hottest is the Bakerloo, which recorded 30.9 in September 2016. So why is the central line so hot? Well, one interesting theory was put forward by one Dr. Cuming, who suggested that the forthcoming end of the world would be hastened by the construction of underground railways, burrowing into the infernal regions and thereby disturbing the devil. Well, that's one theory. But we might need something a bit more scientific than that. Once again, it comes down to the history of the line. The Central Line opened as the Central London Railway in 1900, running from Shepherd's Bush to Bank. It's one of the deep-level tubes a long way below the Earth's surface. The deep-level tubes were built in narrow tunnels largely because it was easier and cheaper. Things weren't so bad back then. The line wasn't as long and didn't carry as many passengers. Indeed, in 1924, the Underground advertised that it was cooler down below in this poster by Austin Cooper. But over the decades, things started to hot up for passengers. The tunnels were built through clay, which is pretty good at keeping the heat in. All that electrical machinery and all those people generate a lot of heat, and 80% of it stays down there in the soil. The narrowness of the tunnels, which is rather acute on the Central Line, offers little room for ventilation. Some relief is offered by what is known as the piston effect, where trains push air through the tunnels in front of them, but not much. Is there a solution? Well, some lines incorporate ventilation shafts. The Metropolitan and District lines were built with large openings, although that was less for heat than it was for smoke in the days when their trains were steam-hauled. By the time the Victoria Line was built in the 1960s, engineers were aware of the heat problem, and so that and the Jubilee Line have ventilation shafts built in. The trouble is you can't just install a ventilation shaft on an existing line. You have to consider what's up above, and in the case of the Central Line, what's up above is some of the most expensive property in the country. Instead, a number of different solutions have been applied to different stations by way of experiment. At a simple level, huge fans are used at many stations. Impulse fans, which create a jet of air, were tried at Lambeth North and Marylebone, but didn't make much difference. At Seven Sisters, a variable refrigerant flow system was tried. This basically works much the same way as a domestic fridge, but, much bigger. The variable flow part refers to the fact that the amount of cooling can be controlled. This was okay, a bit slow to get going. A chiller unit was tried at Euston, which was actually too cold at times. At Holland Park, a system was trialled that pumped air through existing ventilation shafts to the platforms. This was the most effective of the system's trial. In 2015, a new solution was tried using a variant of the Holland Park system. At St Paul's, the air was pumped down the existing ventilation shaft and then water-cooled. St Paul's has a particularly large air vent due to the fact that the station was moved from its original location in the 1930s. The ventilation shaft is actually the old lift shaft. This, too, was a success, and St Paul's actually became one of the coolest stations on the tube. You can experience the cooling system for yourself by standing in front of these grills here. Similar systems are in place at Green Park and Oxford Circus. Advances in technology may offer the best solution, though. If you use the subsurface lines, i.e. the District, Metropolitan, Circle and Hammersmith and City lines, you may have noticed that the trains incorporate air conditioning. These trains were introduced in 2009. From 2025, the new Tube for London trains are to be introduced on the deep level lines. These will include, for the first time on the deep level, air conditioning. They incorporate other useful features. They will be more spacious. They will use more energy efficient LED lighting systems that put out less heat. And very significantly, they will use regenerative braking. At present, 38% of heat generated on the underground comes from train braking. So if everything's on schedule, from the mid-2020s we should be able to get a cooler ride. In the meantime, I guess we'll just have to chill out and deal with it. Hello all, I hope you enjoyed this ice-cold tale from the tube. If you did, then please do leave a like and perhaps subscribe for more cool content. As always, I'd like to thank my fans on Ko-fi and Patreon for being the cool breeze to my summer's day. And I'll see you all again very soon for another tale from the tube.